Welcome back. We're in Khan Academy under Algebra 1, and this unit is called Quadratic Functions and Equations. We're looking at features of quadratic functions. This will be the last, I believe, in this series on this topic. It takes a little more time, so I've split it into 3 videos. This question asks, we give this function, quadratic function, g of t equals t squared minus t minus 42. Notice it's in standard form. They ask us what the zeros of this function is. So, judging by the fact that they give us 2, we can presume that there's going to be 2 solutions. But if we wanted to know that for ourselves, we could recall that if the determinant of the quadratic formula is positive, there will be 2 zeros. In that case, b squared, b is negative 1. So, negative 1 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is negative 42 would have to be positive. So we have something squared is positive, negative times a positive times a negative is positive. So we've got a positive number and a positive number. So yes, it's going to have two results for our zeros. I do that even though you can see from the question that there's 2, because you should get in the habit of analyzing functions for yourself, because in real world problems, they're not going to tell you, oh, this one has 2 solutions, right? So, okay, we know for sure it has 2 solutions now because we used our knowledge to figure that out, not just some given information or suggestions. Now, finding the zeros, if it's in standard form, we can use the quadratic function. So let's go ahead and do that. This will be t, the t that makes, the 2 different t's that make this expression equal to 0 are going to be, according to the quadratic formula, negative b, so the opposite of negative 1 is 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, minus 4 times 1 times negative 42. And all of that is over 2 times a is 1, so that'll be 2. Now, we'll simplify, so t equals 1 plus or minus the square root of, well, we're going to be subtracting 4 times a negative, so negative times negative is positive. 1 plus 4 times 42 is 168, so 169, and then divided by 2. Now, t equals, well, the square root of 169 is 13, so 1 plus 13 over 2, or 1 minus 13 over 2. 1 plus 13 is 14, 14 divided by 2 is 7, that'll be the larger one because we've added, so this is 7. And 1 minus 13 is negative 12, negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. So that's our smaller value. And then the question, last question, what is the vertex of the parabola? Well, the vertex has to be halfway between the 2 x-intercepts because the parabola is symmetrical. So halfway between negative 6 and 7, the difference between those is 13 units. So we have to be 13 halves of a unit away from negative 6. So negative 6 plus 13 halves, well, that's negative 12 halves, plus 13 halves is equal to 1 half. So we know our x-coordinate of the vertex has to be at 1 half. And then, once we know where the x-coordinate is, where the t has to be 1 half, we can plug it into the original equation and figure out what the y value will be. So, 1/2 squared minus 1/2 minus 42 equals g of 1/2. That'll be our y coordinate. So 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. 1/4 minus 1/2 is negative 1/4. Negative 42 minus 1/4 is negative 42.25. Negative 42.25. All right. This function is written in factored form. They ask us for the zeros of the function. If any of the factors equal 0, then we know that the function value equals 0 because 0 times any number is 0. This factor would equal 0 if t was 2. This one would equal 0 if t was 15. The smaller one is 2. The larger one is 15. The vertex, just like the last one, will be halfway between that as far as the t coordinate goes. So there's 13 between 2 and 15, so I have to go 13 halves forward from 2. So 2 plus 13 halves, that's 17 halves. And then I'm going to put 17 halves in for t here. And I get negative 17 halves minus 4 halves, just rewriting 2 with a common denominator, times 17 halves minus 30 halves. Now I can simplify. That's 13 halves. That is negative 13 halves. Negative times a negative times a positive is positive. 13 times 13 is 169. 2 times 2 is 4. So this is my y coordinate of my vertex, and this is my x coordinate of my vertex. And 69 fourths, 17 halves. There we go. And we're done.